Hey, what's going on, everybody? Steve Raiken here with the Raiken Profit YouTube channel. Coming back to you guys with another live show, and I'm super excited for tonight's show because I've got my good friend on the channel tonight, Dallas Moore. What is going on, Dallas, man? How are you?
Good, Steve, man. How are you been, man? It's been a while since I really talked to anybody from the original YouTube days, but I guess 5 or 6 years now. I mean, it's just crazy the time that's passed. But I appreciate you having me on tonight, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on as well and spending your time. 2, 3, 4 years ago, this community was a lot smaller and it was a lot different. And there was a lot of questions being asked. A lot of people didn't really understand which direction to go in. I'm sure it's still the same to an extent now, obviously. But there was a lot of uncertainty back then, and people were kind of new, trying to get started. And Dallas Moore was one of those guys out there who was learning with everybody else, but really kind of moved ahead because he was always willing to try new things and experiment, and his business grew, and he taught a lot of people a lot of things. And I remember one time specifically, and I want to thank you for this. My mother and I were trying to figure out how to do our first Amazon FBA shipment, and we couldn't figure out. Back then, this is before anyone had all these tutorials out. Like nowadays, it's so easy to do an FBA shipment. There's a million free tutorials out there, but I couldn't figure it out. I was trying to call Amazon. They kept redirecting me internationally. I couldn't understand them. So this guy, Dallas Moore, actually Google Hangouts, he shoots me one of the videos and walks us through the process. I don't remember exactly what happened, but you helped us to get our first shipment out. So it's cool, man. It's always cool, when people don't have to help you and they do, and it lets you know that they're a good person. So I want to thank you for that, Dallas. But yeah, let's see who's in the comment section right now. We're going to be talking about the evolution of e-commerce and the journey of entrepreneurship with Dallas Moore. So, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, changes to e-commerce, what he's doing in his business, talk about his journey as an entrepreneur, as a reseller, eBay, Amazon, what he's been up to. But yeah, let's see who's in the comment section right now. We got hearts pickers in the house, man. Dallas, you know Ronnie.
Oh yeah, Ronnie's a good friend. Good friend. I talk to
Definitely.
him weekly.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, Ronnie, he's definitely a wealth of knowledge. Be sure to subscribe to him on YouTube, Hearts Pickers. We got Romalux in the house. Matt R. Burt, new to you, CT. Looks like we got another Connecticut in the comment section. What's going on, Kent? Cat Chaos, Rimco's, Hingle Sport Vlog. We got a lot of people in the house, 90 people right now. So I want to thank everyone for coming on live. If you guys do enjoy these live shows, do us a big favor. Go down below, smash that like button, and leave a comment. Let us know where you're from and what platforms you are selling on. So with that being said, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you? How can they kind of stay up to date with what you're up to?
Probably the easiest way is on Facebook, Picking Live.
Picking Live.
So just looking me up on Facebook, Picking Live on Facebook. Picking Live on Twitter and the other stuff too, but I don't really post a whole lot, but at least 4 or 5 times a week on Facebook. So if you want to see what's going on with me, go over there. It's all about business. I post some pictures of my daughter and stuff just because I'm proud of her, but it's questions. At least once a month or so, I'll have a live feed where I just sit there and answer people's questions, and I have a lot of fun with that. So.
Awesome. All right, cool. So let's dive into things. And again, everything's going to be linked up below if you want to check out Picking Live on Facebook. Let's jump right into the evolution of e-commerce, right? I know it's a funny title, but things are always changing, right? Let's talk about what's your take on the status of e-commerce, and what changes have you noticed in the market over the last couple of years? Maybe from like when we first started, right? 3 or 4 years ago, when nobody knew what FBA was, like very few, and everyone was just kind of screwing around on eBay and selling locally. Like, what changes have you seen over the last 3 or 4 years from your journey and whatnot
I
as a
think it's
reseller?
really, I think it's really like a hyper evolution kind of. It seems like, and more information allowed people to fail as much, so they could take what other people had been successful with and kind of can go to the next level a little bit quicker than the person before them. And I think, I don't, and I'm not on any of the Facebook groups or anything like that other than Ronnie's Facebook group. That's the only Facebook group I'm on. So I don't know what people are talking about or anything. when I first started, the reason I started doing YouTube videos is because I wanted to people that I could share my experiences with that would understand what was going on. And find those people at the beginning of YouTube because we do live chat hangouts. I mean, I don't know how many hangouts I've been in with you, Raiken, and the guys, where we just sit there and shoot the crap for, 5 hours at a time. And you would learn stuff from what other people were doing, what they were being successful at. And today, I think a lot of that, learn it. There's so many good tutorials like you talked about on, making your first FBA shipment. I mean, that was really something. When I first started doing Amazon, learning how to send in that first shipment was a chore because you couldn't go on YouTube and just search sending in first FBA shipment and 10 videos pull up. There wasn't any videos. Now, today, with technology and everything else that's available to us, when I first started doing, I think I lost you. Are you there?
Oh, I'm back. Yeah.
When I first started doing YouTube videos, I mean, the biggest picture you could put on eBay was 1,000 pixels. You couldn't put these giant pictures on, so you had to use third-party services if you wanted to use big pictures, and you don't have to do that anymore. I mean, there's a lot of things that make what we do a lot easier every day, and how far we've come in, relatively short period of time, and I'm excited about what the future holds.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, there's a lot of changes, right? It's kind of like, things are moving very quickly now, but the information's out there, right? Like there's no excuse not to get your business started, whether it's eBay, Amazon, Etsy, or Craigslist. It's out there. It's really up to you to kind of take it and run with it. And, I started my YouTube channel for kind of like the same reason as you. I wanted to network. I wanted to interact. I wanted to be a part of the community. And, it's a big thing. If you start your own YouTube channel up, you start to get a kind of a reputation, and people are gravitated towards you. They gravitate towards you, and you can learn a lot of really cool things from people. I can't tell you how many things I've learned from, being in chats, like you said, with the Bonafide Hustler, with yourself. I mean, back in the day with Ronnie. So, I mean, that's huge. In your business, what's maybe one of the biggest things that's changed in your business over the last 3 or 4 years? Can you talk about where you started? Like, how did you get started in reselling in your story compared to like where you are today?
I mean, I look at my YouTube videos just from a couple of years ago, and I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, it's not even the same person. It's not even the same business. I talk to my wife a lot. I was like, when I first started selling on eBay 8-9 years ago, you'd have a $200, $300 hit. It was like a big deal. It was like you wanted to tell all your friends and family, I bought this for $5 and I sold it for 200. And now a $200 hit, just light bill. And I'm like, there's so many things that are different today in what as far as changes my business. Before, if you would have told me that I was doing the kind of numbers that we're doing now, I'd be like, wow, that's awesome. But that brought in a whole new set of problems that I didn't even think about when I was doing, hours a month to where we're doing now. I mean, the problems are completely different from when I was a good amount of money to what I'm doing now. The problems that I have, to me, maybe they're not bigger because the numbers are bigger, but it's a lot different from where I started.
Give an example of a problem you had 3 years ago compared to maybe a problem you have nowadays to show some context.
Well, I 3 or 4 years ago when I first started doing YouTube videos, I moved into my first warehouse, and it was 800 square feet, and my rent and it included all of my utilities and everything. The amount of money that I had to make every month was astronomical, But now I've got employees, I've got 4,200 square foot warehouse that I'm running through the system every day. I've got to have stuff done so that my VAs have stuff to do. There's a lot more responsibilities. Where when I was back there, I was working for myself. I was a one-man operation. My biggest problem was stuff and bringing it back, taking pictures and listing it. And now my biggest problem is, am I going to have enough products so all my people are going to have enough stuff to do? Am I going to have enough products that I can do? Why? Especially when we get here into the Christmas season with FBA and everything else. I mean, it's just the problems are a lot different. They're completely different. I mean, from where I started to where I'm at now, I say, well, I just like to give it all up and go back to where I was at. But then you look at the number, you're like, if I go back there, if I had a, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, I'd be like, holy crap, I'm going broke. But now it's, sometimes you just kind of want to go back to the good old days, but they're not always good old days. They're just older days.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they feel like if they get to this next level, or if they make a certain amount of money more than what they're making, that all the problems are going to go away. I think, with more money, like what is that, Jay-Z? I don't know if you listen to hip hop. It's all more money, more problems. I don't know.
More money, more problems. Yeah.
I don't know if it's more problems, but it's different problems. Like you said,
yeah, it's completely different. It's, I probably had the same amount of stress and the same amount of worry years ago, different things that I'm worried about, where before it was, am I going to find enough stuff for me to list, find enough stuff for my pictures of and my VAs to list onto eBay, or am I going to have, is this truckload of product going to get here on time so that these people can do what they need to do to get that part done? And, it's more
right.
sticks and trying to line things out than it is necessarily about going out and hitting that estate sale or that thrift store, where those days, where I could just go out to a thrift store, buy 4 or 5 things, bring them back, list them, and you kind of done with your day. And, now it's 6 o'clock and about 30 minutes ago, and now I'm sitting here doing a video with you, and then I've got about another hour and a half worth of paperwork I got to do, and then I got to go home and spend time with my wife and my baby and my child, and it's a whole different set of things.
One thing that I really connected with you about was you were always a man of systems. You were always a big believer in having systems and certain efficiencies in line to kind of leverage your time and make things quicker. And it was always one of your big values. I know it was. Can you talk about that a little bit? And, we've got this whole outline here, and I'm just veering right off of it because there's so many things that I want to catch up with you about. But talk to people about systems. I mean, I know a lot of people, they kind of just, especially when they're new, they go out, they source, they kind of just take pictures, they ship out, they just kind of take care of everything, but there's no real plan. There's no real thinking about how can I make this quicker? How can I be more efficient? How can I leverage my time? Can you talk a little bit about systems?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that you do, it's all about the system in which you utilize to facilitate it selling. That's what we want to do. Doesn't matter if you sell on Amazon, you sell on eBay, you sell on Craigslist, you sell on Facebook groups, wherever you sell. All you want to do is facilitate that product going from your hands to someone else's hands, and there being profit in the middle. And that profit in the middle, and if you make that system where it's seamless, and you take a product from A to someone else in B, and that middle part just seems like it works perfectly, then you have a great system. And for us, what we do is, I bring in a truckload of products that goes into the back. They fill these totes. I don't have any around here, but I've got these black totes that washed, ready to prepped product, ready to go be photographed, comes in on. And I've got these vegetable carts, and they wheel in probably 6 of these big black totes on these vegetable carts. And then every day, 2 or 3 people, I have these photo tables that we've, and you talk about system, we just recently changed it. I was testing this other system with these photo tables, and I was like, well, this works better than this other system. So we went and changed photo tables because it works better. But, so they bring in the product on these carts, they go to their station, photographs, and then the photographs are automatically uploaded to a server. And then those server photos, number, every item's got a number. It's a 6-digit number. And we type in the number, that becomes the photo name. So it's 013513-1 or -2-3, however many photos you took. And then when it gets through the system, they've gotten the pictures taken and everything. We've got another system that takes place in the Philippines, and that's where our VAs come in. And so all we're doing here is we're cleaning products, we're prepping products, we're shelving products, we're shipping products out. And then the VAs take the photographs from the items that they've had. That had, if it's clothing, there'll be measurements, different things, different parts. But we have a system in which I've built that allows us to do all this. And it goes to the Philippines. And then they complete the listing on eBay. I go in every night and I sit there and I'll okay all the listings, and they'll start, or if they're auctions, they'll start at a certain time or scheduled or however we end up doing it. But it's a seamless system. Product comes in, they got to clean the product, they got to prep the products, they got to fill totes. Those totes come out here, people take the pictures, they assign them a number, pictures are taken, the pictures are uploaded to a server. The Philippines, the pictures, and then they list the product on it at night, and I price stuff, right? Change listings or different stuff like that. But it's a system from the time that the product is bought till the time that the product is sold. There's a system in the middle.
Are you?
Sorry.
Are you still using Google Drive?
Not anymore. We've used AWS, Amazon Web Services, and I've developed
Okay.
allows me to do it without having to do it through Google Drive. But it's basically the same thing. It's just a program that's written to do that.
I've had a lot of people ask, like, I want to hire a VA to complete my listings, and there's a few different ways to go about it. How do you what's your process for having your VA do like your eBay listings, for example? I know they pick the photos and all that, and they go through your system, and they get all the information and whatnot, but how do they actually do it and without publishing it and not putting your eBay account in jeopardy? Is there any tips you have for that?
I use InkFrog, which is a third-party software, and you can assign developer levels or employee levels, so they only have access to certain points of your deal, and then they schedule the listings, and I go in and things, and then I send them directly to eBay.
Cool.
I think that's the best way to do it. But they're all different. I mean, ideally, eventually, what I'd like to have is do it all the way through, and I won't have to use InkFrog. But right now, InkFrog's like a kind of a band-aid until I can develop that back-end part that plugs into the API of eBay, but I don't have that done yet.
Cool, man. Awesome. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Definitely appreciate you talking about the systems. I think that's something that a lot of people kind of overlook.
I mean, everybody's going to be different, I mean, what I do is completely different than what other people do, I mean, we sell a lot of a record collection that'll have 10,000 records in it, so we'll sit there and we'll take pictures of records for 2 weeks, and it's easy for them to learn how to list records, and then we'll go to something else and we'll list that 16 millimeter films or whatever, and I'm buying a bunch of stuff in bulk, and we're accumulating it over time, and then they're doing the same process over and over. If it's taking pictures or if it's listing in the Philippines, it's all about the system. And even if you're a one-man operation, maybe your system is that pictures first, and then you get all the pictures taken of everything that you want to do, and then you sit down on your computer and you complete listings. Or I know Ronnie Hart, his wife takes all the pictures, then he sits down and does the listings. But there's got to be a method to the madness. You just can't say, well, today I'm going to list, and today I'm going to go to the thrift store. You just get lost sometimes. You'll sit there, you'll find one item, and you'll be sitting there researching it for 8 hours, and you get one thing done, and it's like, accomplish.
So where are you, if you don't mind sharing, of course, where are you getting all your products from? I know back in the day, you used to always do these Facebook videos, and you were doing retail arbitrage and thrift stores, and then you slowly started moving into, I believe you were doing auctions. How do you get most of your inventory nowadays, if you don't mind us sharing?
Most of it, I've got 2 full-time buyers that are out on the road buying at state auctions. We fill up. I have a 40-foot container trucks, and we'll palletize it and ship it out. I have 2 buyers in the Midwest, my dad and another person, who do nothing but buy full time, and
Wow.
so we'll tractor trailer loads worth of estate stuff, and we'll ship it down here. And that's really what our focus is on eBay is that stuff.
So you don't even go out and source anymore, do you, now and then
I
for?
do. I'll go on, if there's an auction here locally on a Saturday, or like today I went out and hit some estate sales, but that stuff really doesn't make a dent in what my bottom line is every month. It's really about the rest of it. I still like to go out and, I'll hit Goodwill, or I'll hit, a thrift store, or, every Wednesday I usually go out and I'll do my little route, and I'll hit some estate sales, and then I'll hit a few thrift stores that I like, and, end up back here 3 or 4 o'clock. And but, not as much as I once did. I mean, I'm not relying on me to go out and buy it.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. You're probably one of the first people I've ever talked to who's actually been able to, effectively hire people outside of books to buy. Do you have any tips for, like, how did you get that all set up? Like,
I train. My dad is awesome, but he didn't have a clue. So I went out and I spent, time doing it. I did it with him. I showed him exactly what I wanted him to buy. We're buying, a lot of stuff that we're buying, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You're buying a box lot for $5. If you can buy all the box lots for $5, and you buy them all, and we get them here and we process them, and maybe 3/4 of it goes in the landfill or goes to a thrift store. But in there, if we're processing enough material and we get enough gold out of it, we're going to end up all right. So it's not really about, I'm not expecting them to go out and buy, $400 lamps, or Coke signs or anything like that. We're really butter stuff, $10 to $25, $30 stuff, and that's kind of where we make our money. Sometimes we'll get hits and we'll sell, something for more, but focused on that.
cool, man. Awesome. So let's talk about a few different things in terms of like the evolution of reselling. Let's talk about a few things that aren't working, that used to work maybe 3 or 4 years ago for you. Now, I know your business model has changed up in a sense, but is there anything that you used to do back in the day that was lucrative and you were making money, and it was maybe put it in a different way, it was easier, versus nowadays? Is there anything that you've noticed that has changed, maybe in a negative light?
I mean, I think Amazon's probably the biggest thing there. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, I could walk into a thrift store and I could spend it, or walk into a big box store and I could spend $1,000 and make $1,000, and it was that easy. I mean, you could go into a Walmart, pull stuff right off the shelves, fill up your cart, but now, with the margins on big box products getting smaller and smaller, I don't think that's a viable business plan for someone who's starting out today. I think you've got to have so much capital. I mean, if you're spending $1 million to make $100,000, yeah, that makes sense, because you're making $100,000 when it's all said and done. But not everyone's got that kind of capital to go out and do that kind of stuff. And I really think to do it, 25 and 30%, you've got to spend huge money to make anything that's really worth a while. And I think that's the biggest difference from 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, Christmas was, you could start to see it, but now with the cost of entry being so high for new people, and the ball the goalpost keeps changing on a lot of that Amazon stuff. I'm really not even, if I walk into a thrift store or I walk into a big box store and there's a giant clearance section and they've got something and I scan it and it makes sense, I'll still buy it.
Right.
But I'm not going out in, Walmart's trying to make a living like I was 3 or 4 years ago.
When you rented that RV out, remember you rented an RV, right, for a Q4?
No, I bought an RV. I got it sitting right over
there. So you bought an RV. Tell people about that experience. Kind of taking a step back. What was this, 3 or 4 years ago? You bought an RV, or you had it?
It was my second Amazon, so it would have been 3 years ago. Amazon Christmas, and about this time, Olivia showed me a picture on Facebook where it shows you, the 4 years ago or 5 years ago or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And but we bought this RV, and the end of October went out, and we started here in Texas, and we hit Walmarts all the way to Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, all the way up to where my folks live in Michigan for a week. Then and we shipped all, we'd stop in an RV park and we'd pack our boxes in the RV and ship it out. And then we worked our way all the way back down because all of our shipments were going to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So advantage if I could be in Chattanooga and buying products and shipping them to the warehouse, because I could get to the warehouse and ready to be shipped out to customers within 24 hours. So I went out on Black Friday and we spent thousands of dollars on Black Friday, and rented a car, all kinds of stuff, and we were shipping. I mean, UPS was picking up at our RV, and I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I mean, we right after Black Friday, we decided we were going to come home. About a week after Black Friday, we were going to come home. We were going to work our way back down through Alabama and Mississippi, and I can remember driving through, I think it was Birmingham, Alabama, and our products got checked in that we had sent in the day before, 2 days ago or something like that, but they'd gotten checked in. And I could, as soon as it got checked in, you could see it just, I mean, it was just, that the app
Awesome.
stopped at 100 orders for a day, so you'd refresh the orders and it would say the same one. So I wouldn't think I was selling anything. So I got back on the laptop in the RV and I pulled up and we had another 47 sales in like another half an hour. It was our first $10,000 day and our first $100,000 month.
I remember that. That's awesome, man. That was definitely a journey, and you were keeping people posted on that journey with a lot of pictures, man.
Yeah.
A lot of documenting of that journey. That was really cool, man. Nowadays people do these things all the time, but you were kind of leading the pack back then. You were kind of one of the
Yeah.
first guys to document doing that. So that's cool, man. Let's switch things up a little bit and talk about what's working right now for you. Before the show, we were kind of just catching up because we hadn't talked in a while. And I was like, listen, man, what are you up to now? What's your business like? And you were talking about Amazon, and I said, oh, you're doing private label, and you said, no, I'm doing things a little differently. So you mind talking about that? Because Dallas has taken a different angle that I haven't heard any YouTuber or just average content creator talk about. So do you mind sharing your experience with Amazon right now?
I think the real opportunity on Amazon is to build a brand, and it's the easiest way ever in the history of the world to build a brand is through social media and through Amazon. Amazon gives you a super cheap way to distribute your goods, and social media gives you a super cheap way to advertise your goods. And you can advertise them, you can advertise them to people who wear blue shirts on Thursday. You can really get to a pinpoint and real opportunity. And what we've done is, I don't think private label and buying products that are being created for someone else and slapping your name on it is necessarily the best way of going about it.
It's a lot
I
of
think,
competition too.
if you're going to sell toothpaste, there's another 20,000 toothpaste. But it's about finding those little niches. There's little niches that, you don't need to be in those things that are the top 1,000 or top 100 items. You can make a lot of money selling 10 items that are in the top 30,000. And it's finding products that are underutilized on Amazon. And I've with computer programs. And I developed a computer program that would go out and it would find, like you'd put in a keyword, like whatever, fish tank or whatever. And it would go into the Amazon API and it would pull anything that had that as a keyword in the listing. So, and then it would rank them. And I would sit there and I would look at the stuff that was ranked between 20,000 and 40,000 in home, or, if it was in grocery, maybe ranked between 5,000 and 10,000. And I would find things that were underutilized. And And then I'd find local manufacturers that would help me make them. We've got a manufacturer just south of us that we sell 10 products for, that had no interest in doing Amazon, had no interest, no one in their team wanted to do Amazon, no one that they were selling to wanted to do Amazon. They had no interest in Amazon. So we got an exclusive rights to sell their products on Amazon. And so that was 10 new products. And all of those products are ranked in that range between 20 and 40,000 in home.
Wow, that's
and
huge.
Each one of those makes me, X amount of dollars. So it's all about finding those little niches that are underutilized and not going after these things. I want to get the number 3 ranked puzzle and toys. Well, what's that? That's great, but you're going to spend thousands of dollars in marketing, thousands of dollars in building a product, and there's no guarantee it's going to end up being ranked there. But if you find products I'm selling that have a market, but they're underutilized on Amazon, and there's lots of them. There's tons of them. And I've said this from doing YouTube. You find to sell 3 times a day that make you a $10 profit. That's $9,000 profit a month. Money. That's all you got to do. You got to find 10 products, 3 times a day, $10 profit. That makes you $9,000 a month. And going out and searching these items at big box stores so you can make $3 on your $30 spend just didn't make sense anymore. So I really focused on that.
That's really cool, man. I definitely congratulate you for taking a different angle. Let's see. I'm looking in the comment section right now. Somebody was asking about how many employees you have, Dallas.
3 here at the shop. That 1 in the back and 1 on eBay, and the 1 on Amazon floats back to the eBay stuff when we're not doing our shipments. But 3 here at the shop, and then I have 2 VAs, and then my brother-in-law handles our estate photo business.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So let's talk about a few other things right now. In your opinion, I know you were talking a lot about branding and whatnot. It always seems like you're kind of staying ahead of the market. You're always kind of trying new things, and it always just seems like you're ahead of things. Like how do people best predict? Because some people don't want to get left in the dust with their particular business model. I mean, how do you stay ahead of the curve, or how do you kind of, consistently innovate and be one step ahead than the next guy? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, books, and I've really taken to this whole the whole lean startup kind of deal. And then what it's taught me is that too much. So for me, I wanted to find 20 products that sold 3 times a day. That was what my goal was. So that's where we started. I went and I tried to figure out ways to do that. So I keep throwing products until one of them stuck, until I filled my bucket with the 20 products that I wanted. And then I was waiting for, that I wanted to test or try, or, maybe they could, when one of these other ones got saturated, it could come in and fill that gap. I wanted 20 in my bucket. I wanted 5 I was testing. That's what my focus is every day for Amazon, is keep 20 items in my bucket and be testing 5 more items. And you always got to be experimenting with that, and Amazon is an odd beast because the goalposts keep changing. They say one thing and then next week it'll be something else. And I developed a computer program that allowed me to go into Walmart.com, and I could pull all the products from Walmart.com, and then I would run it through a program, and it would tell me what was profitable that was on Walmart.com. Now there's computer programs, there's 10 of them that do that. But I did it before anyone else did, and it gave me an advantage. I was trying new things. I wanted to figure out why, going in and scanning products with your phone and hoping you found something didn't make sense to me when there was a giant database of products like Walmart.com or ToysRUs.com that I could scan and what was profitable. So that year I spent trying to figure out how to do that. I had to figure out, how do I get access to Amazon, to Walmart's API? How do I get access to to Toys R Us API. Once I get access, how do I develop a computer program that'll run those toys or tissue or whatever you wanted to run through the program? How do I get those to run through the program and give me what's profitable? And then what information do I need in those products to know if it's something that I want to buy? So, I got access to Walmart API, I got access to Amazon API, I learned about all of those things. I got access to how to manipulate that so that when my data came back, it was clean. I knew what I was looking at, and I knew if it was a product I wanted to buy. So I developed this whole computer program over the course of a year. And I experimented, and it's all about that, trying to find new things. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm working with machine vision, computer learning, to go out there and look at a photograph. So say you have an old black and white picture. A lot of you guys know, but some of you might not know. Part of my business is East Texas Estate Photos, and we sell old vintage photos. And a lot of that time is developed, the time is listing those products. It takes a lot of time to list them. And I know with machine vision and computer learning that it's really getting into a point where you can feed photos into a program and it'll tell you it'll caption that photo basically. So it'll tell you little boy on a scooter, da 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 da. And I know that with my titles for eBay, the way I want my title structured is vintage black and white photo, right on in the picture, and then so it'd be vintage black and white photo, little boy on a bike. And I know that if I could figure out how this machine vision and computer learning work, that I could run literally as fast as I could scan images through this program and list them to eBay. So, I mean, if I can scan 100 images a minute, then I can list 100 items to eBay. And that's really what I'm focused on right now, is learning that. And I'm at a point where we're real close to getting that working. I mean, the whole deal, the different parts work. Now it's just pulling it all together and making it work. And it's all about experimenting, trying new things, and not being afraid to say, this is stupid. Why are we going into shops scanning stuff when I got a huge database of stuff that I can scan? Or, this is stupid. Why am I scanning all these photographs and spending hours listing them when I can just scan them and the computer can tell me what's in them and list them, and I don't have to do any of that? So it's about figuring out those new things that maybe people haven't thought about and being the first to do it and try to figure it out.
Wow, man, that's awesome. There's a lot of really good comments coming in. Some people are saying genius, love it, good stuff.
I'm not a genius. I just think about things differently. I'm not. I didn't get great grades in school. I was a jock. I played basketball, and I didn't. But it was, when I think about something, I think about it as, why is it this way? Figure out, well, it would be better if it was this way. How to get it that way? Then I've got something. It's the same thing with what we're doing on Amazon. I was like, this is stupid. I'm going into stores, I'm spending hours scanning crap, and I'm walking out of there with an empty cart. This is dumb. Why am I doing this? There's got to be a better way.
I think that's a good question that you always ask. That's a question you always ask. Is there a better way? I've heard you say that like 100 times.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a better way. And I'm always trying to find a better way, just like my photo stations. We had photo stations set up, and I had, the seamless paper and everything. But I don't know, you can see it over there. But I've got a photo station set up, and that's my test station. So when I'm here at night by myself, I sit over there and I test stuff. And I saw like BFHO, the clothing seller on eBay. They use these photo tables. These photo tables they're unbelievable. They're awesome. And it's, they lay out their clothes all nice, and that gets that flat photo that you see on a lot of clothing photos online or whatever. So I was like, so I went on YouTube and I'm searching BFHO, and I find this video where they did for business and something Idaho or something, where they went into BFHO and I think that's what it is, BFHO, is that right? I think it is. Went into their fulfillment center, and they showed these tables that they were using, and I saw the name. So I wrote down the name, and I Googled it, and I search it, and I call them, and I say, hey, you've got these photo tables, how much are they? And they're like 20 grand. And I'm like, I'm not gonna spend 20 grand on a photo table.
Wow.
So they walk me through the process of how this whole thing works. They do a live chat like what we're doing here now, but they've got it on one of these tables, and they're showing me how it works and how all this stuff, the camera is positioned here and this. And so I built this table out of 2x4s and $30 worth of crap. I think it works just as well, as this table. But I saw that table on a YouTube video, and I'm like, that will help my business. How can I get that? So I found the company that they said, yeah, it's 20 grand. I was like, well, that's not going to help my business. How can I get this $100? And so I got, freaking piece of plywood and some sawhorses and 2x4 gantry, and the camera's hung up here, and I got a huge monitor at one end, and I can sit there and I can lay out the clothing, and I can see how it's going to look, and I can,
that's awesome.
I can adjust the color so it looks right, and I can get a perfectly white background in one shot, and I'm not having to go back and edit my pictures and do all this other stuff. I can do it all at one time, and my pictures look better, and I'm getting them faster than I was before. So it's just about thinking about it like that. I saw this video and I was like, how do I get that? And I got it.
That's cool, man. That's really, really cool right there. I think half the battle is just recognizing that there is a better way, like you said, and asking yourself, what can I do to improve, and go out there and research, and you found somebody doing it a better way and you dove into it. So that's definitely awesome right there. I want to shout some people out in the comments real quick. We got Art Aguirre in the house, OZ Worldwide, Sama Albadassi in the house, Idaho Falls Picker, Joseph, what's going on? Joseph saying very clever. Someone was saying Dallas definitely thinks outside the box. I definitely agree with that. I think we should kind of gear this show more towards some Q&A right now, because there's a lot of questions coming through and the feed's moving so quickly that it's kind of hard for me to keep up with it. So you guys, if you have a question, put it in all caps right now, question, and ask your question. If you are enjoying the show so far, do us a big favor and smash that like button below. We got 203 people watching live right now, Dallas. So that's really, really cool right there. So I appreciate all the love. I know there's a million other things you guys could be doing right now. Let's see. I'm just looking for some questions. So while some questions are coming in, you're selling on Amazon, right? You're selling on eBay. Are you selling locally?
A little bit, but
a little bit locally.
I have something that I want to say that I think's helped me change my whole mindset. I am not an eBay seller. I'm not an Amazon seller. I'm an online retailer. I own East Texas Estate Photos. I own East Texas Estate Liquidators. I own the Odd Frog LLC, and those are my businesses. And the platforms I use to sell my goods, Amazon, Craigslist, Facebook. But I think a lot of people get locked into this idea that I'm an eBay seller, or I'm a reseller, or I sell junk, or whatever you do. You're a businessman. You own a business, sells on eBay, or your business sells on Amazon. And once you stop thinking of yourself as Amazon seller, because you don't work for Amazon, East Texas Estate Photos, or you work for Raiken Profit Clothing, or wherever you work, that's your business. eBay's not your business. You don't make any money, and I think a lot of people get lost in that mindset, thinking, online retailer who owns something that sells on these platforms. And that's, I think that's a mindset a lot of people get stuck in.
Wow, that's really big right there. I could definitely notice the change just from talking to you, that you've made that shift. So that's huge right there. We got some questions coming in. Scott is asking question: how many listings does Dallas have on eBay? It doesn't matter, guys. I don't even want to ask that question, because a lot of people always ask, hey Steve, or hey Dallas, or hey John, how much you selling? How many listings do you have? It doesn't matter, guys. You got to look at yourself and try to improve where you are. So I really don't want to even ask that question, because I don't think it really has much value. Amazon called me today Yeah, Amazon called me today to approve me for FBA in Canada and Mexico. Fourth quarter cutoff. Any thoughts? Any thoughts for the folks out there who?
I sell in Canada. I tried selling in Europe. The VAT tax and everything ate up all my profits, so I kind of dumped that. But I sell in Canada. I ship direct to the film, and I did in Europe for. Tried it. It wasn't for me. Stuff I was selling didn't have a large enough profit margin to make it worthwhile for what I was wanting to do. But I think it depends on what you sell. If you're selling stuff that you're making a good amount of profit on, where you can. I know that Amazon's got some crazy rules with as far as you have to have someone on staff that speaks the language if you want to sell other places. I'd really like to sell in Japan. I think my products would do well in Japan, but I don't have anyone on staff that speaks Japanese. So
Time to learn. What was I going to say? There was a question that came in. Oh yeah. Are you ever considering doing Shopify or having your own website? I'm not sure if you do for your private.
I did Shopify for East Texas State Photos. I really tried hard for about 6 months. That's kind of where my 6 months. As a platform, have an amazing ability to market themselves, and they spend millions and millions of dollars to do that. I can't spend millions and millions of dollars to get people to come to a Shopify store. And I thought with East Texas State Photos that I could get people to go from eBay, who bought from me in the past, to Shopify. And I got a very small number of people to do that. They were much more comfortable buying on eBay than they were buying from my Shopify store, even if I offered them free incentives or lower prices. None of that stuff seemed to matter. They felt more comfortable buying on eBay. And that's the good thing about having these platforms to sell on, is that they spend the millions of dollars and I don't have to. But I've tried Shopify, like I said, 6 months beginning of this year, from January till about July. And I went wholehearted. I was running Facebook ads. I was running Instagram ads. We doing all kinds of stuff trying to get that thing going, and I just couldn't get it going. So I'm.
Yeah, I've got quite a few friends who do Shopify, and they're actually half of them are struggling. The other half are doing really well. They're spending a lot of money. A lot of money.
I think it depends on the product. If you can get people to come, your cost of acquisition per customer is the key when you're doing something like that. And if you're spending $10 to get a customer to come to your website, and it costs you $10 in profit, then why are you doing it when you can get them to come to eBay and pay eBay 20% of whatever's going out? So
yeah, it's a different game. People don't realize, like you said, how much behind the scenes work Amazon is doing, not only with keyword optimization and retargeting campaigns and email marketing and just the brand loyalty they built over the years.
TV commercials and Prime, everything else. There's huge money that they spend every month.
I love when people say, I'm gonna go build my own website and sell my own products. Like, people don't realize how much work goes into that. Like, just how much money is spent just to acquire a customer. Like, having the eyeballs on your products, like, it's just ridiculous, the opportunity we have with Amazon. So
I've seen people who are t-shirt sellers, who do cool t-shirts, that have had a lot of success doing Facebook ads and doing Instagram ads and getting people to come to their site and buy it. But I think for stuff that I sell, I'm selling estate goods, and I'm selling vintage photographs, and I'm selling, that I'm getting on Amazon. Those things don't equivalent very well to a Shopify store. But selling, whatever you're selling, if you've got, if you're a niche seller, if you're selling records and that's all you sell, then I would try to get, if you can get someone to come to your website and not have to pay any fees, then you're obviously better off. But I don't find that to be
right. I'm over in the green room right now, in the green room Facebook, and I put out a post a little while ago, and I said, listen, guys, if you have any questions for Dallas, ask away, and we'll ask. So I'm in the Facebook group right now, the green room group. Someone's asking, can you ask Dallas about how the Commodore 64 cases are going? He bought the molds and started producing them in different colors. We have not heard much about it in a long time. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, we did the Kickstarter project. I did a little over 100 grand on Kickstarter, and then I did about another 30,000 outside of Kickstarter. They were even made. We got them back here. We shipped them out. Had a limited number of each that I did for Kickstarter, except for the clear and the original color. And I had some extras made of those, and we're still selling them. I'm just about sold out. To a company that does nothing but vintage retro computer stuff, called Individual Computers in Germany. They paid me $10,000 for the mold, and I don't have to mess with it anymore. So I am
Nice.
super. I made that. That's probably my best buy I've ever made. I mean, and it made me over $70,000. So I'm super happy with it, and someone else who's Commodore Computers now has it, and that's what needed to happen. I still have the 128 mold, the next generation after the 64C, and at some point maybe I'll do a Kickstarter or something with that. But at this point, I'm kind of just holding it ransom.
Very cool. Mo Fremont in the green room is asking, is he looking at Walmart and Jet as viable new platforms? Does he source locally only? If not, where? Road trips, online arbitrage? We kind of talked about that already, but what about Walmart and Jet? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's an interesting match, the two of them together. Who started Jet is the guy who started diapers.com and sold it to Amazon. And when he bought it, he started it to compete with Amazon, and now he's getting that opportunity with all the backing of Walmart. I don't know. I mean, I think if I was Walmart, I would have probably bought Boxed instead of buying Jet. Just my. But I think that eventually they could be viable. But the thing that makes Amazon and FBA neat is the fulfillment network, and that's really what is fulfillment. And I don't think it took Amazon years to figure out how to do third-party fulfillment, and Walmart to try to figure out third-party fulfillment in any short time. So,
right,
unless you're wanting to ship your products yourself or drop ship them from Amazon, from when someone buys them off of Walmart, I'm not buying in yet.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Question from Rocky Mountain Resell. Does Dallas sell or lease his custom Amazon software? How much? How can I check it out?
If you've seen the last couple of Christmases, I've posted 100 buy list on my Facebook page. I had the Hot 100 toys, as Walmart, Toys R Us, and all of them classified. They're Hot 100, and I put those and I tracked them the last 3 Christmases, I guess now. I just don't think it's going to be anymore. I mean, this OA X-ray and all this other stuff that does, basically what my program does. I still, I have these lists like, Paw Patrol, like all the toys have a spreadsheet with all the Paw Patrol toys on it. And I just run it through my program occasionally, and I'll say, oh, look, the Robo Dog is $17, $18, and then if I'm in a store and I'll walk through and I was like, oh, Robo Dog, and I'll pick it off the shelf. But that's really all I use it for now. And even updated that with the new pricing, so the pricing's off by a few pennies. But
we got another question.
There's stuff. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's the internet's a little iffy, so sometimes I cut in by accident. So I apologize if I cut you off. Torin B is asking question. What's going on, Torin? Good to see you. Can you talk a bit about how you manage your employees, how you set their goals, and how you reward them and make them feel like a big part of the team? Wow, Torin, that's a phenomenal question. Thanks for asking.
I'm focused on growth. A startup or a company that's new, they want to get 30% growth. And that's really what my focus is on, and that's where my bonus structure sets in is with that. I know how many products that I can list in an hour, so my expectations is no more or no less than what I could do in an hour. So I expectations on that and go from there. But I think the key is training. And when they've worked for me for over a year now, but when they first started, I spent a week doing their job with them right behind me. So I show them exactly how I wanted everything done. And even when we switched over to this new photo system that I'm using, for a week they sat there and I did it. And then I sat behind them for 3 or 4 days and watched them do it.
Oh,
And I
that's
didn't say
huge.
anything, Once they got it where I thought, they were just as good as me, I let them run with it. And then if something happens and I see where maybe the quality's going down or something like that, then I've built up a relationship over the course of time where I can go to them and say, hey, like crap, what are you doing? And usually it's something personal or something's going on. They didn't get enough sleep and they're just kind of half,
Yeah.
it's all about training in the beginning. And then once you've got them trained, it's about building relationships so that they know, what the expectations are. And then good behavior, we're rewarding them for doing it right. With the VAs, it's a little bit different because they've got a whole different, there's a little bit different, but I have that are full-time are awesome. And they've both been with me for, I don't know, when did I talk to you about VAs? What was that?
Like 3 years ago, man.
Yeah. So they've been with me for that long. So
Wow. That's
they've got it
cool,
pretty
man.
much done. But and in Philippines, they've got this 13th month deal where if they do good all year, you pay them a month's salary for the 13th month at Christmas time. You've got to learn about the Philippine. They don't like confrontation. So if you're
That's so true.
walk away because they'll just not show up, and then you have to it's about learning about people and
It's true.
learning about.
Yeah, I've worked with my fair share of folks in the Philippines, and they're really hard workers, but they do not like confrontations at all. And
No, they'll just walk away. You'll never hear from them
yeah,
again.
I know.
You won't know why.
Let's see. We got a couple more minutes. I want to stand true because I know we got 2 more minutes because this guy's got a lot of work to do over there, and he's got a family a family to go see as well. So let's answer one more question. There's a question coming in, and I think this is a very relevant question in terms of what's going on lately. A lot of the new sellers, they can't get on FBA right now. They're only allowed to sell as a merchant because of the new rule that they came out with, I think until like the end of December or something around there. Merchant fulfilling, if somebody wants to get on Amazon right now, can you still make money as a merchant? Or should you just say screw Amazon altogether? What are your thoughts on that?
Christmas time it's a whole different animal. The problem with Christmas time, and if you're going to be merchant fulfilling stuff, is you've got to do volume. So if you are going out and you're going to, buy the newest, hottest toy, and let's say it's a $50 toy, and you're selling it and you're making a $30 profit when you sell it. Buy 3 of them, you're going to make $90. But if you get one return, $30 after return shipping and all that other stuff. So you're only going to make $30. You really got to do heavy volume to offset. And the hard part about merchant fulfilling is that it's tough to do any kind of super volume because, you can do 100 shipments, but you're going to run yourself into the ground. And at Christmas time, I'm looking at doing a $250,000 over, a 3-month period of time. And to merchant fulfill that much stuff would be crazy.
Be crazy.
And,
oh man.
But I just think it depends on what you're doing, what you're selling. If you're selling RC cars and your return rate's like 60%, mess with it. But if you're selling, maybe you're doing a stocking bundle where it's something that's going to be used and consumed and it's very unlikely to be returned, or maybe you're creating your own, bundle or something. I don't know what you're selling, but just look at what you're doing, judge it for what it is, but also know that you're between merchant fulfilled and FBA have come down. So you're not going to get a huge margin selling at FBA. You get the convenience selling at FBA because you don't have to ship it, you don't have to mess with it, you don't have to do any of that stuff. And with merchant fulfilled, you have to do all that. So if you're going to buy Star Wars figures, make $3 profit on it, you got to make sure that you buy enough Star Wars figures to make that worthwhile. And for each person it's different. Maybe an extra $100 for you helps. An extra $100 for me, doesn't pay my water bill. So it just, got to look at it for everyone a little bit different.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for dropping all that knowledge, man. I want to stick to our 1 hour schedule, and really appreciate you coming on,
I
man.
appreciate everybody.
Yeah, there was a lot of
checking us out, man.
Yeah, there was a lot of awesome content, and it just I wish we could hang out for longer, but maybe another time we can bring you back on the show and answer some more questions, Dallas. But thanks again, guys. If you want to follow Dallas, go over to Picking Live on Facebook. If you enjoyed this video, guys, smash the like button. We got 206 people watching live, only 131 likes. I'm no mathematician, but things just ain't adding up. So smash that like button, show some love. You guys have a great night. Dallas, thanks again, man. Good luck with your business. With your family and everything, man, and we'll definitely stay in the loop together. So thanks, everybody. I'll see you around.